Cyber season is in full swing with our pals Isotope and Native Instruments.
Get huge discounts on everything from Guitar Rig 7,
Complete 14 bundles,
and one of our favorites here at the Cult and Culture Podcast,
Ozone 11 EQ. Go to isotope.com
and nativeinstruments.com
to feast on the audio goodness. Yum.
You can also get additional savings on other softwares by using the code
RUIN10.
DistroKid now also has a motherfucking app. The DistroKid app is available for iOS and Android. You can download it at distrokid.com/app/, or you can get it in the App Store.
Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Planet B
Presents.
Cult and Culture Podcast.
Welcome to episode 28 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. I'm Justin Pearson.
And I'm Luke Henshaw.
This episode features John Reis of a bunch of awesome bands. He's kind of like the San Diego mayor. Starting with, I think, Pitchfork, Rock from the Crypt, Like Jehu, Hot Snakes. Damn, all kinds of shit. He runs Swami Records.
Yo Gabba Gabba?
Yeah, he was on that show. Just an all-around awesome dude. Man, I absolutely love that guy.
Definitely. We should definitely not give away anything in this intro.
Yeah, okay.
From the podcast, because it is so fucking great and wild.
Aside from the fact that he's basically the mayor of San Diego. But yeah, so, you know, the obvious thing, like we had talked about having him on a podcast not too long ago, and then the unfortunate passing of Rick Froberg happened before we had actually recorded, but we had a date set. And I was very hesitant to still do it. I wanted to give him space, and he and John was, adamant about doing the podcast still, and he said it would be good to talk to us and to talk about Rick and laugh, and I think we accomplished that. It was fucking great. It was great.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so to me, since I first discovered John, I feel like as a performer, and we kind of get into this in the podcast a little bit, but as a performer, he is top notch. Even if you're not a fan of his music, which you're probably got a serious problem if you're not into any, what he does, just his stage presence and his persona and his demeanor is just, it's the best. It's unparalleled. He's just a fucking genius. I absolutely love the guy, and I'm so glad that we got this podcast recorded, and it was such a great time spending with him. I don't know. It gets a little sad, but you all can check it out.
But in a very happy way.
Yeah, I mean, it is a celebration of what Rick left us on this planet, and I think everybody's forever grateful for that. It's Rick and John, I think, changed the trajectory of music, subculture, whatever genre stuff you want to fill in the blank, but they definitely changed things for the better. And
the chemistry between them, not just musically, but friendship-wise, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll dive into this podcast. Thank you for listening, and we really hope you enjoy it.
My name is John Reis. I was asked to be here by JP to be on this podcast.
Okay.
JP thought I didn't do podcasts, but obviously I do because I'm here.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I don't listen to podcasts. So if I listened to them, maybe I would be inclined to do them. I like the idea of a podcast.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of listening to someone that I'm interested in talking about their art, their life, and whatnot. So if there's a person that is interested in what I'm doing, maybe they will like this podcast that we're doing here.
I hope so.
Yeah.
For us, the people are always like, hey, you want to do a Zoom podcast? And I do them for the people, but I really always want it to be in person.
Right.
And I always want it to be with someone that I know, or, we had people from like Napalm Death and stuff on here, and I know them kind of, but like not that well. But like the first person we had was Tim Mays, and it was just cool to like get the history of weird San Diego stuff. And
I bet you that was great. See, I will listen to that podcast.
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
like talking about the car wash right there and how they used to like bust everyone coming out of that theater, like
Adams Avenue.
Fucking craziest stories.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. And so I'll just start off by saying, like, when I was younger, I was always, as soon as I don't know, like, I don't know what year. So Pitchfork was your first.
I was in bands before that, but we didn't record anything.
Yeah.
And I went to a school called O'Farrell School of Creative and Performing Arts, and it was a magnet school.
Yeah.
Took the bus there every day. It was in, I guess you would call that like the kind of like the Encanto area, southeast, and about, I would say 75% of the school was bussed in, and pretty liberal school. No sports. All the funding that they had, schools don't have much funding, but whatever funding they had, it was a public school, was used for visual art, theater, music, and dance. So those were kind of the kind of things that you were able to explore as a kid. And it was, I think the school went from 4th to 12th grade, but I started there in the 7th grade. And you could just do whatever you want there. Like my first bands, we played school lunches.
Is it similar to Muir, John Muir?
No, because Muir, you didn't really have to go.
I went there. I had to go.
I know a lot of people that found my school, my chill school, too hectic. Ended up at Muir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
you think that was your like?
So that was like
introduction.
Yeah. Playing at school lunches. Those were, and they felt like shows.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, they weren't really shows. But
yeah. Have you ever played at Mission Bay High School?
No, I did. I didn't go to Mission Bay, but it's.
We put on shows there. Like
really?
Force Down played. And,
oh wow.
I don't know.
Heroin
played.
I went and saw Dr. Dean, the hypnotist there.
Oh.
I grew up like blocks away from Mission Bay High School, but I didn't, and I knew a lot of people that went there.
Well, so okay, so your first like air quote real band would have been Pitchfork,
right?
And then what year was that?
I'm not good with that stuff. I don't know. I mean,
how old were you? How about that?
Okay.
Now you're 160, right?
I'm 54.
Oh, 54.
Yeah. Okay, let me figure this out. So, I believe we started probably like 1986, 87.
Whoa, okay.
86 maybe. The band, I had friends that were in local bands, bands that were playing shows, playing parties, more playing parties, but real bands that like recorded demo tapes and whatnot. And I was jealous. I was jealous because they were doing it and I wasn't, and I was having a hard time finding people.
Yeah, but you were like a teenager.
Yeah. But my friends were teenagers as well, and they were doing it, and so I was frustrated, and I was like, man, I really want to fucking do a band, and at the time in Pacific Beach, there was this guy named George who did this. He did this anti-authoritarian newsletter.
Oh, the ARA guy. Anti-Racist Action, George.
I don't know. I mean, it was an anarchist newsletter. Yeah.
Yeah. He took over Anti-Racist Action in San Diego. I know him. He's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry.
So I would write. So George was like, he wasn't a punker. He was more kind of
like an intellectual.
Yes, he was. Him and his friend that did this thing. They were very much intellectuals.
Yeah.
But he was like, there's these kids that are into this music, and some of this music is kind of about this anarchy, no government, self-governing yourself and each other, and looking after each other, kind of like, someone kind of like, post-hippie kind of thing, and he was just like, yeah, we should reach out to these kids, because they're singing about this stuff, they're into the same stuff that we are. So I met him and started writing little music things for the Daily Impulse. That was the name.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
you wrote them? Oh, because it was a video like thing.
No, I wrote just about bands, local bands.
Oh, like handwriting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I thought you meant like you wrote songs.
No.
Yeah.
And so he did this thing called, he put on the Hardcore Picnic, and it was a bunch of punks hanging out in Balboa Park.
Yeah.
you know where the dog park is at Balboa Park?
Yeah.
So right across the street, that kind of section of grass right there, that's right where he had it.
Okay.
And I don't know how many people showed up, maybe 100,
Yeah.
maybe less. And Rick showed up with his friend Simon, who would later be in Crash Worship.
Oh yeah.
But Simon was in a band called Blood Lake, hardcore band from
Such a
Vista.
fucking great name.
Yeah, and then they were a great band too.
Yeah. We just talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we had a Tad from Crossed Out here. He was talking about Blood Lake.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, they were a great band.
Yeah.
Really cool. And the drums were pretty unique, you know, that kind of drumming in a hardcore
Yeah,
band.
like tribal.
It was very much, and hand, like the Simon style was really, like, I'd never seen anyone play drums like that before. He'd kind of cross his hands a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of kind of tribal, I guess you could, is one way of describing it, but like, lots of toms.
like voodoo kind of shit, you know?
And,
like
and polyrhythmic.
Yeah,
for sure. And so, I met Rick there, and he's like, I know some dudes you can start a band with. And he's the one, Rick introduced me to the other two guys in Pitchfork. They were like North County dudes. And Rick wasn't in the band. He just connected us all together.
Huh.
I didn't know Joey or Don, the bass player and drummer. And so we just kind of, we were literally a garage band. We practiced in the garage up in North County, and played a couple parties, and recorded a demo tape, which it's kind of embarrassing to listen to now, because it was like, we're going to go in and record this thing tomorrow. We don't have vocals. And I was like, oh, I'll sing tomorrow after not having any lyrics, you know, just made up stuff on the spot, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And didn't really think it out too well. But the time came, was like, we need a singer.
Yeah.
And so we asked Rick, do you know of anyone that sings? And he's like, I could do it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And I don't know why we were surprised. I just think we were surprised because he never really showed interest, like wanting to be in a band. And so he started singing in Pitchfork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy because there's that show that you played with Fugazi.
Yeah,
and
where
you
you're there.
like
Yes,
videotapes Jose and I. It's so funny. But that was a really for me, that was a very eye-opening show, because we you know, it was a big venue, and it was, you know, I love Fugazi way more than Minor Threat, but at the time, at my, you know, fucking 13-year-old self, it was Ian MacKaye from Minor Threat,
right?
His new band. But it was so cool
I mean,
that
it was
I knew
like
people.
that for me too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, of course. But it was so cool to like that I knew people that were playing that show, you know, and it was really impressive for me that I felt a direct connection to bands, and it wasn't like I was just some like kid going and seeing bands play, you know. And then I think a little bit later you guys opened for Danzig, and I was like, dude, they're gonna fucking hate you guys, which is great.
Yeah.
Because Danzig was lame.
Yeah. I mean, so my takeaways from both of those two shows is the Fugazi show was so nervous. You know, I just couldn't believe that we were playing.
Because you were playing.
Yeah. But one of the highlights of my life happened that night when, after we played, Ian came up to me and said, you know, your guitar playing reminds me a lot of this guy named Penn Rawlings, who plays in this band Honor Roll.
Whoa. And
at the time, and still to this day, Penn is my guitar hero.
Wow.
So he was comparing me to someone who I obviously love,
Yeah.
you know, and I was like, oh yes, of course, I'm big Honor Roll fan. He's like, oh, that's so cool. And then he proceeded to just tell some funny stories about Penn and Honor Roll, and because he was a fan as well.
Yeah.
So that, I just remember that feeling that I got that night from that compliment. It's like, I was like, man, I don't know if I've ever got a better compliment in my life.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
and
great.
Obviously coming from another punk rock icon, punk rock hero.
Yeah.
You know, these people that you meet, and then you meet them, and it's like, man, you end up just like loving them even more once you meet them. Because
that happened with Danzig too, then?
No. So here's the other met no one in Danzig. Met the tour manager.
Yeah.
And we sound checked, and he kind of told us to wrap it up because they wanted to get up there, their techs. And backstage, he brought out the suitcase, kind of like this suitcase here that you have, and he opened it up, and it was all these like kind of weapons. Like he had like something like a taser-ish kind of thing. He had one of those sticks that like it's telescoping.
Oh yeah,
metal thing.
Yeah.
And and I don't know why he was showing this all his weapons, but he's like,
Who, Glenn was, or the
no,
manager?
the tour manager.
Oh, yeah.
But he's like, I call this one, and he had a name for each one.
Yeah.
You know, I call this one the attitude adjuster. I call this one the silencer.
Yeah.
Like he had, and it was just like we were just laughing,
Yeah.
but trying not to laugh, but laughing inside.
Yeah.
And he had these like gloves, you know, the fingerless gloves on. And he's like showing us all of his weapons. Yeah, and that's my memory of that one. And also, I think that's the show where I think Ryan Fox ended up like jumping behind the bar and stealing a bottle of something.
Yeah.
You
Did
know?
Fishwife play that one too?
I don't think they did.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. That
Yeah.
could have been a different. That venue was really short lived.
What was it?
It was called. Was it called Rio's?
Oh, yeah.
It's right there on. It was on West Point Loma
Yep.
Boulevard, right by the slough. You know that the marsh
Yeah.
there, and the building's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I think they turned it into either condos or offices or something like that.
Man.
But yeah,
That's great. So you met both of the punk icons, and they were completely opposite.
Well,
you didn't even meet Glenn.
I didn't even meet
Yeah.
Danzig.
It's
I
probably
didn't meet
a
him
good
at
thing.
all. No, and it was kind of a Spinal Tappy thing. Like they came out and they had this backing track.
Really?
And they were all wet. Like they had somehow
Yeah.
gotten
Already?
wet between the time that they were backstage and like they wetted themselves.
Yeah.
And you know, I will say I mean I love the Misfits and
I like Sam Hain.
yeah, and I like some of the Sam Hain. You know, I tried to see Sam Hain. They played in San Diego twice.
Yeah.
And
Like back in the day.
yeah, and one time when they played, it was a school night, and I couldn't go.
Yeah.
And then they played on a weekend, like a year later, and the show got busted up before they took the stage.
Yeah.
And again, at that show, I remember like going around the alley. That was at Fairmont Hall, and going back to the alley. And even back then, they were all wet and getting ready to take
Yeah.
the stage.
Were they like wet with blood, or was it just water?
It was probably
Because
oil.
Sam Hain was like
Ooh.
all bloody.
I don't know. It probably wasn't water
Yeah.
because it looked kind of greasier,
Yeah.
but it was definitely part
Probably
of
like
the
baby
aesthetic.
oil or something.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
They have
like
to
baby
look
oil.
wet the whole show,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
they'll dry off real quick.
Yeah, and but they were told that the show got broken up, and I just remember like having my skateboard and just kind of watching from the distance,
Yeah.
seeing the news getting told to them,
Yeah.
and them just kind of like bouncing into each other, like, "What the fuck are we gonna? What the
We're
fuck are
wet."
we gonna do? What?" Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wait, and then so there's the photo that I think was it Mark Waters that took of you and GG, or was
That was
oh,
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely Mark.
What
yeah.
the fuck was up with that? That was the show at Spirit Club, right?
That was at the
Yeah.
Spirit. Yeah.
And I went to that, but I didn't get to go in because I was too
right.
young.
Yeah.
Like Rob Moran and I were outside watching, and it was fucking crazy. Like 4 minutes of a show.
It was crazy. Never, you know, it was like just knowing the legend, the myth,
Yeah.
and thinking there's no way. Like, these are all probably stories, all that have been like, people condense them into one story, but this is probably stuff he's done over years of his life, you know. And it was at a weird time too, because I could be wrong, but remember when he was like, "I'm gonna kill myself on stage"?
Yeah.
So I think that came after though. Because I don't think I would have gone to a show.
If he already said he's gonna kill himself.
Yeah, because, you know, he's probably going to kill other people too, you know? So,
So where does he fit in that like spectrum of Ian and Glenn?
well, I am a GG Allin fan. I will say that,
Yeah.
you know, I like a lot of his music.
So is he,
I think of him as more of like a performance art.
Me too.
You know?
Yeah.
And I also think some of it's pretty funny. You know, it's fucking hilarious, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think he thought it was hilarious, you know? But I don't know.
But you
know?
met him. That's fucking pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the show was it was a great show.
It only lasted a few minutes.
No, it didn't. It was a full set. Yeah.
Then I must have got there at the end or something, because
Yeah.
I just remember like it came out into the parking lot. People were just fighting, and he was outside.
Oh, yeah.
Covered in shit.
Oh yeah, it was a full set. I mean, it was like the feeling in the room, that anticipation, you know. Okay, the band's set up, they're on stage, and Gigi's not up there, and he started walking from the back of the venue to the front, making his way through the crowd, leather jacket, kind of like doing like the kind of punk rock Donald Duck, you know, like no pants, shoes, leather jacket, and working his way through the audience, and he gets up on stage, and then this kind of hush, this anticipation, and people are like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
You know, what's gonna happen? Bends down, he grabs a beer, bottle,
Yeah.
beer, drinks it, looks out in the crowd, hucks the bottle into the crowd, whizzes, spinning through the crowd, hits a guy in the middle of the kind of pit area in the middle of, dance floor, hits him in the head, bottle hits his face, the bottle breaks, explodes, guy falls down, and as he falls down, it got really quiet, and all of a sudden the whole place erupted with like, yeah! And then they broke into a song, and then literally every fucking thing that I ever heard him do, he did.
Yeah.
And
so he obviously shit, and he threw it at people.
Oh man.
What else did he do?
Okay, so the first thing I remember he did is he jumped into the crowd and he pulled a girl's hair.
Yeah.
And
were you already in Pitchfork at this point?
I was, and I think maybe Rocket.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's fucking crazy.
And Pitchfork was over.
Over. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is like early '90s, maybe '91 or something like that.
Fuck, I don't know, man. Really? Because I remember when the first Rocket record came out, and I was like, and GG was gone.
The first record came out in like '91.
The Paint one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, oh man, maybe he was still here.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm really bad.
Okay. Well, anyhow,
the show was incredible. Like the Spirit had one of the walls was all mirrors. Just kind of that illusion to make the place seem larger.
Yeah.
Just these mirrors down one side.
And
They all
great.
got broken.
Yeah.
The ceiling fans got ripped off out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
Every bar stool was thrown on stage.
Yeah.
The pile of
I've seen that.
broken chairs
Yeah.
in the middle of the stage.
Yeah.
Somehow, for some reason,
photo of that.
the toilets flooded. So there was like actual sewage on the ground that had nothing to do with GG.
Yeah.
There was a a bar chair on stage, and he fucking sat on the leg and it went up his butt. The microphone, I think, went in his butt. Blood, lots of hitting of the microphone on the head.
Yeah.
Blood. Shit. It smelled. The stench was pretty gnarly. And I'm not into poop, but yet it's kind of funny, in the same way it's funny when a fucking gorilla throws shit at people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This caged animal's like, fuck you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's one of those things like, I didn't want to get shit on me, but I wanted to go see it.
Yeah, I didn't either. And I wasn't in the front because I didn't want to get punched.
Hurt.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get hit with a bottle or anything.
Yeah.
But I did want to see the spectacle, and I did want to hear, a couple songs that I liked,
Which ones?
Oh, man.
My favorite one's very questionable.
What's that? What is it?
I mean, it's got some questionable words in it,
Well, yeah. I mean, come on. Everything's question.
yeah.
It's all.
I mean,
awful.
I think, yeah, it is awful. Yeah, Die When You Die is.
Die When You Die is great.
Yeah, but it's fully fucked.
Yeah.
Lyrically. I can't wait for that movie to come out about him.
There's a movie.
Yeah, like
Well, Hated is amazing.
It is really good, but there's like a movie coming out.
Who's playing him?
I don't know. Didn't we just talk about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's playing.
Yeah.
It's a big actor.
Yeah, and
Is it really?
Yeah, the people that made The Hangover are doing it. Oh, maybe not, because the guy that made The Hangover made Hated.
Yeah.
Or made Hated. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyhow, it is.
I
It is
think-
supposed to be coming out.
Yeah, it's all like, I think there is a performance art.
Yeah.
And maybe he would be bummed to be referred to that.
Is that? Yeah.
But
yeah.
It is pretty. I mean, it's.
Merle's probably into the paycheck though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Met him a couple times. Seemed
Yeah.
nice.
He seems fine too.
Yeah.
But he's just like a businessman.
He's a big music fan.
Yeah,
Like the guy has like gnarly collection of live.
Yeah.
Cassettes of just hardcore shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever are bored, if anyone's bored and they want to watch some funny stuff, I would recommend getting on the YouTube and checking out his interviews on the talk shows.
GG's.
GG's,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's great. On the Geraldo one, he's
They're-
so good.
they're amazing.
Or maybe he's Jenny Jones or something.
There's like
Yeah.
a Geraldo, there's like a, maybe it's not Sally Jesse Raphael, but there's
yeah,
something
one of
like
those,
that.
yeah.
And there's a couple that I think were maybe more regional
Yeah.
talk shows, because I don't think we necessarily got them here in San Diego, California, kind of thing. But they're great.
Yeah.
And they're just they're so fucking funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your kids belong to me.
Yeah. So I'll make this might be a large jump, maybe not that large, but like for me, when I so when Rocket happened, I was I think I might have like already been playing music. I feel like you guys played maybe your first show at Dylan from Struggle's house in his basement. You definitely played a show down there, and you were like super new.
I think our first show was in
Like
Chula Vista,
San Diego State area.
Okay, I don't think we played there.
Huh?
We could have.
Yeah.
I think our first show was with Shelter at a band practice place.
Oh yeah,
in Chula Vista.
yeah. That's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
Too. So
And especially for Rocket, which was we weren't anti-punk,
Yeah.
but we were anti what punk had become.
sure, totally, yeah.
And like Pitchfork, I was into hardcore, but Pitchfork was already that was after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we were a post-hardcore
Yeah.
band. We were kids that were into hardcore, and when we started playing, we no longer wanted to play that. We wanted to play what that turned for us. This is what it turned into, the same spirit, and.
You're talking about going from Pitchfork to Rocket.
Just Pitchfork was just kind of a post-hardcore.
Oh yeah, of
thing,
course. Yeah. It just seemed like a evolution to me.
Yeah, and all music was changing.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel like we were ahead. We felt like we were behind. People were changing. We were trying to catch up with the stuff that we were into. The stuff that was coming out of like Louisville, Kentucky, and the stuff that was, obviously Washington D.C. and there's bands in Boston that were, and we were just like, oh man, we were inspired.
We didn't know what we had going on here though in San Diego, because in retrospect, it's pretty fucking crazy and unique.
Yeah,
But-
no, it's a weird place in the sense that there was this feeling that we were kind of on an island,
Yeah.
and even though we had access, there was still this feeling of isolation a bit, and so you kind of like have a little sense of pride, I guess. Like, we do things differently here.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends in the 80s, late 80s, we'd go up and play in Long Beach or Orange County, and those scenes fucking sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they seem like the jocks.
Totally.
Not our friends,
Yeah.
but some of the people, or like we play Spanky's in Riverside.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
like these are jocks, and they hated Pitchfork. They would call us faggot.
Yeah.
They would boo.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
Yeah.
But we would hear that.
Yeah.
The bands, they were always cool to us,
Yeah.
and supportive.
But it was the audience.
But it was people from the audience.
I mean, I remember seeing like Infest and stuff up there, and then even like Born Against, I think, played there. But it was always the bands were cool, but the people were fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But I was
so I hated straight edge, even because these were straight edge kids.
Yeah.
And they were jocks.
Such dicks.
And they just really were so like it had to be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, a lot of bands were like getting into metal too.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck metal. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah.
Like now I just look at music as music, right?
Yeah, sure.
But when you're a kid, when you really, I mean, it's your identity.
Yeah.
Being into punk was an identity.
Yeah.
And as it was for these other kids that I didn't agree with, necessarily. But I was from the belief that like there wasn't supposed to be rules. There wasn't supposed to be a uniform. There was obviously I liked some things, and I would look like the bands that I was into and try to sound like the bands that I was into. I was a kid, but I just didn't get this jockey vibe at all. But always got along with all the bands. They were always fine. They were cool.
It seemed like all the weirdos, and I use that term lovingly in San Diego, were always dealing with jocks and a lot of like Nazi skinheads and shit, because I think maybe due to the military and what that kind of stuff brings.
We had
socially.
skinheads in San Diego, but they weren't Nazis. They were violent.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was a Nazi thing here.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but when I was a kid, it was like it was very violent.
Yeah.
Shows were scary.
Yeah.
Because it was random violence.
Yeah.
You'd be watching a band
And get beat
and someone would just punch you out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And and that was part of the reaction.
Yeah.
Bands like Pitchfork and a lot of our friends were like, we don't want that.
Yeah.
And that was when we just invested everything into the Chez Cafe. We were like, we can do our own utopian thing here. And
They still came and fucked it up.
sometimes,
yeah.
but early on, the Chez was it was so supportive. It was
Yeah.
a safe place.
Yeah.
And the Shea had their own rules, which
Yeah.
was like you couldn't have a punk show there in the beginning. You could have a punk band play, but it had to be like you have to play with like a reggae band,
Oh, yeah.
or Sandy also had this really great kind of garage psych 60s scene, that was, people kind of knew it all over the world,
Yeah.
what was going here
Yeah.
in San Diego. I wasn't a part of that scene, but I like some of the bands, and it was a cool thing. And then later on, there was this kind of roots, kind of scene in San Diego. Again, like lots of bands here and kind of renowned around the world for people into that kind of 50s rock and roll stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but I feel like you made this comment about how you were saying that Rocket was you were trying to take a step away from punk,
or just get back to early punk, basically.
because to me it seemed
wasn't
like
hardcore.
the most punk thing.
It wasn't hardcore. It was more like a 70s punk
But
thing.
the attitude was like all about it, which is funny because I think a lot of people missed that, especially when you guys started wearing uniforms and kind of sprucing it up a little bit.
Yeah, we were just having fun,
yeah.
And the band was very much about having fun.
Yeah.
And
Why
shouldn't this be fun? Why shouldn't be? Why? Like it was, like it. I always had this thing where people are like, oh, Drive Like Jehu is a serious band, and Rocket's like and it's like, dude, they're both all good friends,
Yeah.
And the difference is, one band was just like fully invested in just getting out of San Diego, playing shows, and Drive Like Jehu was more introspective.
Yeah. Well, also too, but like maybe with Rocket, you have the ability to like kind of crack jokes and stuff.
Yeah, and it was pretend too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of give ourselves stupid names and
It's fucking great.
it was kind of comic book, like I love comics, and it's like, why can't you just be what you want to be? You can be whatever. I think kids are much more accepting to that now,
Yeah.
But it's like, things don't have to be like, you can make something fake real. Just,
Yeah. I mean, reality is irrelevant to some people. But so it's weird because you would say that one was a fun band, one was like introspective. But I feel like the fun, like when I watched Rocket the whole time, but like maybe like a little bit later on when you guys decided to take the Locust on tour, which was a fucking terrible idea, but also a great idea.
that was a good idea.
Well, your fans in Texas didn't think it was a good idea.
But we didn't really have fans in Texas.
What? Someone was getting these venues.
Right, but like
full.
it's like it wasn't like oh, can't wait to
I am
get
not
to our
criticizing
good friends
you
in
or
Texas.
Rocket at all. We were so stoked
Yeah.
to be on that.
No, that was great.
We wanted that. Like, we were a big fan of the combativeness. But wait, what was I gonna say is about the so when I'd watch you guys play, I felt like, I mean, yeah, it was very fun for the audience, but for you guys, it was like a workout because you would be like song after song after song. You'd have a break, you would say a thing, you'd fucking kick back in. It was like relentless.
Yeah.
Kind of like when I would see videos of maybe like the Ramones when they were younger.
Yeah,
And it was
love
just,
the Ramones.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bands of all time.
And
James
also,
Brown,
there's
Black Flag. I mean, these are bands that we were like, we want to be. I mean,
you performed like at a fucking top tier, no fucking around. Where like I feel like if you were just like a fun band, you would be.
Well, there's nothing more fun than being kick-ass.
Yeah.
It's like that's the
Yeah.
funnest thing.
Yeah.
And
That's a good way to put it.
And we really wanted. We were like, okay, we're doing this so much. We're spending so much of our life dedicated to this thing. Let's be the best at it.
Yeah. You definitely were.
When we're playing, let's make that place the place to be on planet Earth that night. This is the place you want to be. Like, this is the coolest place to be on planet Earth this night. So let's just kill it.
Yeah.
Give it our all. And we practiced a lot. So
Yeah, you could tell.
all that stuff. That wasn't just like accidental. We
Yeah.
fucking. I mean, it would be. When we got signed to a major label, the whole reason for doing that is we can quit our jobs and practice every day, 8 hours a day.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's what we did,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, it was great, you know? But you can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to maintain. because after a while you're like, I kind of want a life outside of this.
Yeah.
And Rocket did not allow a life outside of the band, really.
So I know, like you've probably discussed this a million times. There's a movie made about it that Bill Prine made or whatever. Like the sort of like when you were running Rocket and Jehu simultaneously, you had ultimately you made a decision or something happened like that?
I want to criticize the movie on one thing.
Okay. It's
and
gonna blow.
I'm glad that Bill made the movie, and because no one else did, you know. But the one thing, the documentary is missing, as someone who was there, is all of these people that were kind of in these supposedly bands doing different things. We were all really good friends, and we had a lot of fun. And that kind of competition didn't exist. It was camaraderie. We all were rooting for each other. Of
course.
And we were really we were very happy to be a part of this thing.
I didn't get that in that film.
I think there's a sense of joy that is missing from it. And it's all about the music and those times that we spent together and celebrated each other and our friendships and each other's art, you know. And I think the movie kind of, you know, because part of the movie seems to be about, like, I'm in this one band that's like was supposed to be this big band, and, you know, but yet there's this other thing going on that's somewhat, if not more credible, something more representative maybe,
which is Rocket,
of what's going on. And it's like, dude, we're all fucking friends. You know?
Oh, you're talking about the two bands.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we were supportive of each other. And the as far as, like, why did Drive Like Jehu stop and Rocket continued, I mean, I don't really have an answer for that other than just to kind of think back.
Yeah.
And it's an opinion, so you would have to talk to other people that were there. My opinion is Drive Like Jehu did a tour, and it wasn't fun for everybody. And the feeling was, after the tour, we weren't going to do this again anytime soon. And Drive Like Jehu kind of had the opportunity to kind of take a swing at it first, because Jehu put out the record first, you know.
First album.
The with on the major label thing. With Yank Crime.
Yeah, Yank Crime.
So that came out before Rocket put out something. And so they, you know, the band had their turn, and it wasn't a very long turn, because there wasn't really that appetite to go out there and to play, you know. And so Rocket, when it was Rocket's turn, it was a fucking long turn.
Yeah.
We kept going and going and going. And after a while, it's like, maybe, you know, maybe I'm just going to keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
Because the Drive Like Jehu was, I mean, a lot of practices, a lot of time, a lot of, you know, it was more of a kind of like artistic democracy, you know? And I don't know what that would have been, you know, as we got older and when we reformed. We were kind of different people, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And we were having fun. We had the fun that we didn't have back when we did it the first time. And a lot of that was because of Rick. Rick, I think, was able to just kind of enjoy, you know, just because he'd been in bands in between, you know, Hot Snakes, Obits, and he really loved to travel. And he really loved to connect with his friends all over the place. So when Jehu reformed, it was like, oh, cool, you know, I can take these things that I've learned from other bands and apply them to this, you know.
I will say that, not to jump around like on a timeline, but like the performance that you guys did at the Balboa Oregon Pavilion was, I'm not religious, but it was the closest thing to a religious experience I've ever had, because like I love your band, all your bands, but I really love Drive Like Jehu, but it was seeing it in that context with 4,000 people of all generations, like it was like a reunion, and it was so beautiful. The skyline was nice. The sun went down during the set. Like, you performing with the organist, there was like this weird telepathy happening with you too. Like the whole thing was hands down one of the best shows I've ever been to.
It was one of the coolest experiences of my life, for sure. And I felt that everybody there was celebrating San Diego.
Fuck yeah.
You know, we were celebrating our city.
Yeah.
And
even the people that accidentally were like, I just saw like regular people were like, what the fuck is this? Because
Yeah.
it is still weird ass music to normal people.
Yeah.
And it was great to see that as well.
yeah, we got really high off that show. We carried that energy into wanting to do that's basically what started
Yeah.
the kind of reforming and playing shows and
Yeah.
whatnot.
So, I mean, Rick, he just had like the most unique everything style. How did you? I'm assuming it was you and him that kind of concocted the Jehu thing, because it seemed.
So Pitchfork stopped. We stopped doing Pitchfork because we had replaced the bass player once already. The second bass player was going to move away. Go to school, and the drummer Joey was in a bunch of bands. I think he was playing like an Inside Out, and seemed like he was kind of musically kind of more into that anyways. And Rick wanted to start playing guitar, so it seemed like, well, it started feeling like we'll do something, but it's going to be different.
Yeah. And
had a couple songs kind of like kind of worked out, and and didn't know Rick to be much of a guitar player.
Yeah.
He had a guitar, and the way I remember it is he just started playing. Like he'd been playing maybe six months. And in that 6 months just got so good. I don't think he ever got better. Like he just got to where he always was in that 6 months, you know? I mean, I don't think I ever got any better either, you know? So it just kind of put it in perspective. But that was a very formative time for both of us, you know? And he was definitely Sonic Youth. What is that? Death Valley 69 with Lydia Lunch. That song was kind of a catalyst for him. He heard that and was like, okay, I can play guitar, and I can do this, and I can be unconventional, and I don't have to think in terms of, chords per se.
Oh yeah.
This could be whatever I can imagine.
Or even structure. Like there's no, I mean, there's a lot of like insane tension and stuff in some of the songwriting where it's like not normal.
Right. We were really into that band.
Sonic Youth.
Yeah. Yeah. We thought that it was just heavy and powerful and beautiful too.
Again, like referencing like all these bands that on the maybe a punk purist wouldn't necessarily think they're a punk band, but I think that like something like Sonic Youth is probably the most punk band because they are
live. It was jaw-droppingly fucking spectacular.
Yeah.
The sound was so beautiful. And
well,
I never heard anything like it before.
You guys definitely harnessed that energy. I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we took from it for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we were like, we want to apply this to what we're doing. You know.
Yeah.
We were in a lot of different bands, but that was the one that I think gave Rick the confidence. Like, I can do this. You know.
I mean, to me, and this is like not a diss at all, but I felt like there was like the sort of musician, or the lineup was like a lot like Fugazi.
Well, we were just figuring out what made a good band, what that is. And there was a band from San Diego called Night Soul Man.
Yeah, of course.
And we heard about this notion of a rhythm section where the bass player and the drummer are in this lock groove and create this foundation. It wasn't until I saw Night Soul Man that I was like, okay, that's a rhythm section. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what it's supposed to sound like. That's what a good one is, you know? And so with Rick and I, it was definitely like, we got to get that. We got to get those two guys because it's so incredible, you know? And so that was very much, it was very deliberate. Like, we want Mike and Mark.
Whoa. And then divvying up the vocal duties, right? I mean,
that
was like kind of cool too. I mean,
I think it's just one of those things where it was, you know, oh, I'll do this or I'll do that kind of. As time went on, I got more and more disinterested in singing. I don't like singing.
Well, you do that in Rocket.
Yeah, and I don't like it though.
Really?
I like to have done it,
Uh-huh.
but it gives me a fucking headache, and it's just. I like talking. I like connecting with people.
Yeah.
I like communicating.
Your communication on stage is like the best.
Thank you.
Fucking best.
I feel comfortable in front of people
Yeah.
speaking.
Huh.
I like it.
I used to not want to speak at all, and I think that it doesn't. I'm a big fan of just not saying anything to the audience, but that is not very helpful. People they want to connect to you, and they want to
Right.
like have.
Well,
a better time.
it's. I like a lot of bands that don't say anything. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's all just. There's no rules. It doesn't have to be one thing or another. But I kind of, in my mind, I look at like part of why I didn't like heavy metal as a kid is because, I love Kiss as a little kid, and then one day I was like, fuck these guys.
Yeah, I had the same
they're
problem.
they're kind of like.
Yeah.
I like the comic bookness of it, and I actually like the music even to this day. There's Kiss songs I really love, but I was like, these guys want us to kind of worship these, them as these false idols, and a big thing about punk rock was, okay, that doesn't exist here.
Yeah.
We're all on the same fucking stage.
Yeah.
The band and the audience, and that's empowering. As a kid, you're like, oh yeah, we all have a responsibility to make tonight great.
That's such a great way to look at it. Like the sort of like fun, making the night great kind of thing. I mean, I guess that's always there for me, but I never have verbally said it out loud or thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we don't have much time on this planet, dude. It goes by fast, and if you're gonna do it, just do it as good as you can, and make the moments, they're important. So treat them that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So up the street was Adams Avenue Theater, and that was the best place to see a show. It had great stage, had an actual like kind of drop down pit area, and then had balcony on either side that didn't go all the way up to the stage, but it was just good. You could see, good size. It probably wasn't as big as I remember it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that like kind of feeling where
and you go back and
you
it's
go
like,
back to a club that you played and you remember it being way bigger, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's like not that big.
Yeah.
But it felt pretty big at the time. And I went and saw Black Flag. It was my first time seeing them, and I'm there early because I'm the first one there, and so I'm inside. I buy my ticket. I go, and there's no one there at all. And Henry Rollins is like walking through the club to backstage, and I yelled, Henry. I don't know why, but I was up on the balcony. I'm looking down, Henry, and he looked up at me, and like, yes, you're calling me or whatever. Yeah. And I didn't know what to do, so I just ducked real fast behind like this little like railing, and then he walked off. I looked up and he was gone, and I was just like, okay, so at punk shows, like, bands just walk around the crowd, they do that kind of thing, because if all you've seen is like fucking Bay City Rollers and and Jackson 5 and Kiss, and, it's like
that's what you're never gonna see them cruising through the yep, that's pretty wild.
So that was a big inspiration. Even that one little thing, just a dude walking through the venue, that was a revelation. Like, oh, okay.
I've had a few of those revelations over the years. I had this funny one though with Rick, and I wish I feel like maybe I tell this story, and it might be a little wrong, but in my mind I think it's right. So I was friends with Matt Anderson through like struggle and heroin, playing together and stuff, and for some reason like so Filth, that band Filth was playing in Tijuana. I don't know if you're familiar with Filth. They were like the cool like destroy everything, like mohawks and like like super punk, but like
dischargy kind of.
yeah, but like legit, like pretty rad. They're from the Bay Area, and I was like, oh shit, they're playing in TJ. I really want to go, and so like Matt and maybe Corey Lindstrom or someone were going, and they're like, you should just go with us, and I was like, cool, and I was I was like 15, I think I just started playing music, and so Rick came, and so I had already really liked Pitchfork, and I think like Jehu had just started, and I was like, fuck, that's the guy. Like he's just cruising in this car with me. Like it seems so weird. I didn't equate Matt to be like Rick, I guess. Because I'd only seen Heroin play at the Che, but I saw Rick play like big shows, and so I was like, oh my god, he's in Like Jehu, and that fucking record is insane, and I really wanted to talk to him about it, but I was like, there's just like 6 of us in the car, like he doesn't want to talk to me about that, and I remember like it kind of came up with someone else, and I was like, well, what does Jehu mean, and he just like gave me some weird answer that like kind of maybe it made sense, but at the time. So I didn't know this, but he was on acid, and so and so I was like, and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about?
I've never seen him on acid. I didn't even know he even tried acid.
Well, that's what everybody said that. So I didn't know this. So I was like, he just gave me this weird thing, and I was like, okay, that's cool, like whatever. And so we went. Maybe he wasn't on acid, but so we went to. I think maybe Scott Bartoloni was with us too. But anyhow, we went to TJ, walked down there, saw went to the show, and like the opening band played, and it was fine. And right before Filth was about to go on, the DEA came and like raided the venue, and they lined everybody up, and they were like harassing everybody, and they were saying like, we need your IDs, and I had a fake ID. It was you had to it's 18 and up, and I had a fake one. So
it was in TJ.
Yeah, and so I gave him my ID, and the guy was like, I looked like I was fucking 8 years old, and the guy's like, nah. What's your birth date? And I was like, ugh. And I didn't know the date that I should have said, and so I said the wrong date. And he's like, no, stand over there on that other wall. You're going to jail. I'm like, holy shit. And I just remember like Rick kind of looking at me like, fuck, see you, dude. Like sorry or whatever, And I was like, wow, this is so fucked. I'm gonna go to jail. My mom's even know I'm down here, and I still didn't know that they were on acid or whatever. So like I'm over there by myself, or in another line, the line that's gonna go to jail, and they're all standing on the other line, and then all of a sudden there's all this commotion, and all the DEA run to the bathroom of this venue, and they you hear all this stuff, and I don't remember if there was gunshots or not, but basically this dude had all this meth, and he tried to climb out the window, and they shot him and killed him as he was going out the window. So there was like a bigger situation, like, all right, everybody out, and so we all like kind of piled out on the streets, and it must have looked cool because everyone looked awesome, they all had like spike jackets and like like to the dress to the nines, and so everyone came out on the street, and I lost. I don't remember who was driving. It was maybe Matt or someone, but I lost everybody, and it was it was just I guess maybe it was Corey. He was like, yeah, they're all on acid, and we're gonna have to just walk back and like grab the trolley or whatever. And I just remember thinking like, fuck, that's crazy. That's this guy that I looked up to on stage, fully on acid, and like can't even have a conversation with me, and like, but he went to see Filth. Like I don't know. I thought like it was cool that he was like into like the gnarly punk stuff. It was very very eye opening and informative for me to accept someone like him as a human being, and not like Kiss or Bay City Rollers or something. It was. I think
cool. Rick was playing with Matt probably at that time in Slug.
Slug. Yeah. That was also eye opening to be like, whoa, you're in a band with the guy from all the other bands. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, obviously Matt has gone on to do insane shit, and he's a legend in his own right. But at the time, I looked at Matt as just like one of my normal friends who played in a punk band, who was always cooler than me, but in my band or whatever. But like it was still on a similar level. I mean, we toured with Heroin and Into the Line, but with Rick, it was like another step above in my mind.
Well, he's a little bit older too,
Yeah.
But yeah. Maybe that's a terrible story though. Someone got shot and killed.
It was on
and
meth.
TJ.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it was such a fuck. I didn't go to jail. I mean, it sucks that guy died, but if I would have went to jail and TJ.
Well, you wouldn't have gone to jail. They put you aside because they probably weren't even DEA. Although if they did shoot a person,
they all had
But back
crazy
then,
gear
it was
on.
all just about So they were there for probably some drug raid bust. Yeah, but
It might have been
back then. It wasn't with the DA, but we'd often encounter the police down there,
Yeah.
and inevitably it was like just a shakedown.
Oh
you know?
yeah. But I mean,
So-
I had nothing. I was like, I
Right.
didn't have a job yet. I was fucking 16. You know?
Right.
But yeah, I actually got arrested in full locust uniform in TJ once I was pulling out of a driveway of where we were playing on a one-way street, and I had to like park the van. So the lot attendant was like, go right, like it's a one-way. Like I think everybody was going from right to left, and he's like, oh, just go out and go like right, and then like immediately pull back in. And I did it, and this cop like lit up and pulled me over, and I was like, fucking had my mask on, everything, like, and they were like, no, like, take your mask off. You know, they thought like I was, because I found out too, it's also illegal to wear masks down there. And I was like, you sell these lucha libre masks and shit, you know. But I was like, dude, they're like, you're gonna go to jail right now. You have to come into the courthouse. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, look at this. I'm playing a show, and I don't know how I had like the balls to say this to this cop, but I was just like, no, I'm not going. I'm going in there. And I just walked away, and they're like, no, and I didn't do anything. I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to have been because I probably looked insane.
Yeah. And they probably, if it's too, they don't want to be seen.
Oh yeah.
Getting money from you. So if you're in a really public area.
Yeah. I had nothing. I had to have my wallet on me. I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah. I don't think it's like that down there anymore.
Yeah.
As a kid, it was kind of like it'd be, frightening.
Yeah.
Because they would scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You go to jail, you go to jail, you go to jail. And it's like, no, I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah. Did you play Iguanas a bunch down there?
We did play Iguanas a bunch. Yeah. Oh God, that was fucking Thunderdome. That place was fucking crazy.
Yeah. Man, so then there was like that weird transition. Somehow you guys ended up bringing this Hot Snakes thing to life, which seemed to me, and I don't mean any disrespect, because I like all of your projects so much, but I feel like Hot Snakes was kind of like it seemed like it was like a meshing of Rocket and Jehu a little bit.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way or thought of it in those terms. I think for me it was just that was the music that I was into at the time, and still am.
And the players.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean, with Rick, it's like there's never going to be another set of eyes or ears that I will trust as much as his. Mm-hmm. We always agreed on everything, really. We never had artistic differences. He gave me a lot of freedom in the sense that as a guitar player, anything I came up with was okay. And I had the permission to go as far as I wanted to with things, knowing that with Rick, he would make sense of it. He would find out where the chorus was. He would give the song purpose with his words and his art, and he would bring it to life, So, because I speak better in musical terms with my guitar than with my voice. My best lyrics are on the guitar.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's I feel that we both connected in that way, where we both think in terms of music and not in colors but in shapes, and fitting shapes together and shapes that don't fit together, creating dissonance. And so with Hot Snakes, when we started, it was definitely, there was a rejection of the kind of progressive element of Like Jehu.
A rejection from who?
We were rejecting it.
Oh,
we were like, we want to be more rock and roll.
Yeah.
We want to be a little bit more literal. And
you can see that in like obits and stuff too.
Right. Mm-hmm. For sure. And yeah. So it was just kind of, we were into a lot of music from the 60s, like really kind of crude teenage garage music. So that was kind of creeping in. We were still into the same stuff, I mean, I think you know, in Pitchfork, our favorite band, one of our favorite bands, you know, top 10 was always the Wipers, but now it was taking a more literal front seat in terms of, you know, what we were into. Bands like Suicide, you know.
How did that translate musically then?
Just I don't know. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe the organ, maybe, you know, because there's no bass. Maybe that.
Yeah.
Maybe the repetition.
Yeah.
You know. We weren't confrontational like Suicide. You know.
Yeah.
But Suicide has a lot of early rock and roll in their sound. You know, it's a very New York band. You can hear the vocal groups, the doo-wop, you know, vocal groups on street corner. You can hear that in their sound of Suicide. You can hear that, you know, in Alan Vega's lyrics. Yeah. You know, so yeah, you can hear early rock and roll in his solo records, in Alan Vega's solo records. So yeah, it's definitely was an influence. And then, you know, a band like the Saints, which was always one of our favorite bands, you know, for Jehu and for Rocket, you know. These were just things that we wanted to make music that you know, that felt like the way that music felt,
for
you know.
It
was like, okay, we don't want to sound like it, but we want to have that feeling when you're listening to, you know, Stranded. We want our music to give us that same feeling.
Yeah, because I feel like it's one thing to have a launching point to what you want to do, but if you nail it, I think something went wrong. I feel like you should just go for that, but do this other thing.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I think getting it wrong sometimes is the best. That's where the beauty is.
Me
you know,
too.
the
That's
magic.
what I'm
can
saying.
be.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things like they were trying to sound like a blues band. It doesn't sound like a fucking blues band.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They thought they were sounding like AC/DC. It doesn't sound like AC/DC.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank God.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all the a lot of bands that I can think of that like tried to do this thing and then became something different, and I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
That they didn't nail it.
Yeah.
I think also we have when you have influences, you don't even realize it, and even non-musical influences will fucking change everything.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we live in such a great time in terms of like, you know, this is where I sound like the old man, you know, back in my day, but literally like a Stooges record was impossible to find.
Yeah.
They were out of print. You couldn't go down to Licorice Pizza and find one. You know, the only Ramones record you could find was the one that was new at the time.
Yeah.
Like End of the Century. That was yeah, you could find that one. That was the new record.
Yeah.
You know, and then so you would go to the swap meet, and there was a guy that had cool used records.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you were just kind of like buying stuff because it looked punk.
Looked good.
You know, like this looks like it could be a punk record. I don't know. You know,
I would go to Off the Record and Cliff from Social Spit would just be like,
Yeah.
buy that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's fucking try it out.
Yeah. I remember Social Spit was playing, where was it? And he fucking took out a knife, and I didn't know he had a fake leg, and just stabbed it into
I think Tim Mays might have told us this story too. Yeah.
He was rad. There was two guys that worked there, him, and there was this metal guy that worked there that was really cool too. I forget his name, but yeah, like, what are you looking for? Oh, I want a punk record.
Yeah.
Buy this.
This one. Yeah.
It's Bad Brains.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
For me, it was always like Off the Record, but when I lived in Arizona, Zia Records, I don't know if you know that, and they're still around too. So it was like, it's rad that those people they helped me, raise me, you know.
Totally.
Yeah. Like I would never have discovered the Birthday Party at age 11.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for this cool ass older person telling. I mean, they seemed fucking old. They're probably 20.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. You know, you're like these old people that are 20.
Yeah.
Kids
but when
themselves.
you're 10, it's a big jump. So yeah, I don't know. I just it's just weird timing for us to be talking about Rick. I really my heart goes out to you and Britt and everybody else in the musical and non-musical family of him. He fucking changed the trajectory of a lot of people's worlds, including mine. You know,
definitely changed my world. You know, it's his biggest fans were his best friends.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like
so cool.
You know, and with his passing, it's like, yeah, you know, I lost a best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I also lost my favorite singer in the world. I lost my favorite visual artist. I lost a lot, you know.
You lost your band.
Yeah. It does feel good to talk about him. To tell you the truth, you know. I'm not gonna cry.
It's all right.
There's been a lot of crying.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so real. But we were kind of talking earlier, like he just still feels here.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so recent. Like,
yeah.
And we were working on music, and I just feel that like he's gonna come into the room. You know,
Yeah.
obviously I know he's not, and the loss, the tremendous loss is and sadness is real, but there's a part of it just like it's so fresh that I feel his spirit is just everywhere around me. I hear his voice, I see him, you know, I see him in places where he used, you know, I think he's in that corner there or here, you know, in certain places that I just associate with him. You know, I smell a fucking cigarette. It's like I feel he's there. You know, he's smoking a cigarette. You know, I pour myself a drink, and it's like I thought there was more in this bottle. Rick fucking must have drank it all. It feels good to talk about him. I love him so much, you know, and it's never enough.
Yeah.
It's never enough. You know, we get to the end and it's not going to be enough.
Yeah. It's such a strange thing to try to put it into perspective, because I feel like maybe we look at these people, because we don't, you know, humans are pretty naive and with a lot of stuff, but we look at death in a certain way, and it's fucking heartbreaking that people leave us early or for whatever reasons. But I feel like maybe, I don't know, you know, they were here for this amount of time and did all of this stuff and touched all these people. Maybe, and it's not to diminish the fear or the feeling of loss and grief, but like they did all of this outstanding shit that normal humans can't do.
Yeah.
So we need to cherish that and raise that up.
Yeah. You know, that's true. You know, it was a life well lived. You look at Rick was always very uncomfortable with the word legacy.
Yeah. And
when people would talk about, you know, the legacy of Drive Like Jehu, he would be offended by that.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he wasn't a complete narcissist that thought, of course, this stuff is very important to us, but he didn't really expect it to be important to anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, and
but now he doesn't have to feel uncomfortable, and we can say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And maybe his energy, whatever, you know, I don't want to be woo-woo or anything, but maybe his energy accepts it, you know, maybe, because it's, fuck, man, I put that first Jehu record on, and I remember, like, putting it on, and I couldn't walk away from the record player. The whole, both sides, I just fucking stood there and was like, oh my God, this is from another planet. Like, that doesn't happen. That happens, like, maybe twice, 3 times in your life, you know, and I was like, that was one of the records, so.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, JP. I'm very happy with the stuff that we did together. You know, it's here's the thing that I kind of think about with the stuff we were working on. It's you know, a lot of bands that have been around for a long time, or artists that have been, you know, have a body of work. You know, there's ups and downs. There's an ebb and flow, and there'll be a time when maybe they weren't doing what some people would consider their best work. And then there would be a time when they would kind of come back and do this piece of work that's like, they're reinventing themselves. They're better than ever.
Oh yeah.
There's something here that feels as important as their earlier work. And there's a lot of examples of this in bands, you know, their comeback or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of times these are bands that, you know, were prolific in their 20s, and when they had this comeback record, they're literally 30, and yet there's this perception of them being old, you know, because like this is their 10th record or whatever. And you know, Rick at 55, this is my opinion, but it's the right opinion, was doing his best work ever. His best art, his best music. He was firing on all cylinders. The stuff we were working on, you know, it's up for people to decide whether they think it's better or not.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, it's every bit as good, if not better, than the first record, the first Hot Snakes record.
Whoa.
And there's not a lot of people you could say that about at 55.
Yeah.
They're doing their best fucking shit ever.
Yeah.
Like,
but a lot of it's weird because a lot of people will like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like a lot of people are like kind of teeter out and stop or something. Where like, I remember being young and seeing like, you know, these hardcore bands play, and I remember once going to a show in Del Mar, and the singer had a mustache, and I was like, what the fuck? He's got a mustache. Like he must be like in his 20s, you know, and I didn't have like a perspective. And you know, even now, like you think about a lot of the people that I looked up to that were like into punk and hardcore that are still doing it, and there's not as many, but the ones that are still doing it have that ability maybe to not, you know, I hate using all those terms like reinvent themselves and stuff, but like the world's different. Everyone's different. Right. Everything is fucking different. The way we write, the way we actually physically record, all of it's different. So it's gonna change. I think it's weird when you compare things to each other like that. I don't know if it's fair to the artist or the work or anything. I just think it should just stand on its own and be a thing that's accepted, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes bumming people out is a good thing too, though. You know what I mean?
It's great.
You know, it's like it's okay to not be understood.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's more just with age and you know, we're just kind of learning. We were just starting to learn how to be older, you know, getting the hang of it, you know, and so it there's a certain freedom in like not taking things so personal and not really having to and just being able to enjoy the moment and the moment being the important thing, you know. I mean, bands come and go, music comes and goes. It might be, you know, again, it's like it's really important to us, but it doesn't have to be important to anyone else.
No.
You know, it's
but
not.
That's a good point too, because I feel like a lot of people, maybe not like you, anyone in this room or our friends, but a lot of people do create music not for themselves, but for something else.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it definitely sounds like that, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Or if you start a band and you're like, I want to be successful. That's, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think if
I mean, it's like
measuring it in success.
What's more grosser than ambition? It can be such an ugly fucking look.
I feel ambition is, but that's like such a
it is, but you know what I'm saying.
Thing. Yeah, I totally do. I wonder what people's ambitions are. Then I guess, you know, if it's sincere or if it's for some other sort of weird endeavor that I can't necessarily relate to, because I feel like a lot of times people have their goals are set for some sort of gain, whatever you want that to be, but I don't know if it's I guess everyone does everything for a gain. Like I make music for my own personal gain, but not like for a all the things that are associated with you know, fucking Bay City Rollers or Kiss or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's for the things that Fugazi did it for, you know, and or the things that I don't want to say GG Allin, but you know what I'm saying? Like someone, like there's a different spectrum.
There becomes a point where it's just your identity and that's what you do. And if you're not doing it, then you're not being who you are.
I think you fucking nailed it by saying you speak through your guitar. That's a really, I think, important thing because language is so trivial. And I think with music, it's the only form of communication that exceeds past language and gender and class. And anyone can speak through music as long as they're being sincere with what they're saying. And you fucking have been. So
And you can be insincere too, though. That's fine. Because that could be fun as well. But yeah.
But even when you're insincere and you do it like you're saying, there's still you're still saying something. There's a narrative there that's
right. Yeah. You know, at an early age, you would hear bands talk about like, so you know, how did you guys start? And rock bands would be like, you know, we just started the same way everyone else does. We just, you know, wanted to get chicks, do this, you know, because girls seem to like, you know, bass players or whatever the fuck they say. You know?
No, they don't like the bass players.
And it's like, or you also would hear like, you know, I was just working this office job and I just couldn't do it. And if I wasn't doing this, I'd be digging ditches, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, so your music's like the equivalent of like digging ditches. You're like digging ditch music.
Yeah.
And you're the other guy's like in just trying to get chicks music, you know, kind of thing. Like that obviously was not the inspiration for me to play guitar.
Yeah.
I started playing guitar because Ace Frehley looked like a comic book superhero and his guitar would fly, you know, and I was like, you know, 10 or whatever, you know, and I was like, I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to play punk music because I saw Johnny Ramone and I thought that's a good guitar player. Look how fast that is.
Yeah.
Look how low his guitar is. Look how cool that is, and how they didn't stop between songs. And it was so that was a really big influence. And then later was like, oh, I want to play guitar like Greg Ginn because it sounds like he's out of his fucking mind, and he sounds like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like, and it's scary.
Yeah.
But yet, not so scary that I want to run away from it.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
There's something in here that's seems. You know, I always say like, you know, listening to Black Flag for the first time, it was like we were doing something wrong just by listening to it because it seemed illegal.
Yeah.
Like these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Why did they let them put this out?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It just seems so crazy, you know?
But it almost seemed like another version of like the comic book aspect of Kiss or something, you know, like discovering Black Flag or punk rock even, you know, you're just like, oh yeah, like Ramones kind of seemed like a cooler version of Kiss. Like, you know.
Well, they were very much into bubblegum. I mean, the Ramones did like the Bay City Rollers, you know. I mean, I like the Bay City Rollers too, you know, but as a kid I didn't want to be the Osmonds when I was a kid. You know, now I go, oh fuck, I love some Osmond songs.
Yeah.
Some of them are just so great. But as a kid, it's like, no, I don't want to be in a manufactured pop group, you know. But the Ramones definitely wanted to be that, you know. And again, they got it wrong.
And great. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when you set out and you end up doing something really fucking cool. Well, cool. I think whatever you set out to do in all of your endeavors, you might have missed it, and I appreciate every single fucking time you missed it, man. Yeah.
I'm a big admirer and fan of you, and you inspire me.
Oh,
you know,
thanks.
I listen to the records that you do, and when I see you play, and I give you my highest compliment. You make me want to play music.
Thanks. Well,
you make me want to put out records. You make me want to stay busy and stay active, because what we do is only part of our art. The art really is the way we live our lives.
Yeah.
And the way we go through.
It's all the stuff in our brains.
Yeah.
It's just like, here it is.
And we're not, you and I, you know, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to tap out.
Yeah.
You know, we're in too deep.
Yeah.
And there's some of my favorite bands. I love them for that reason mainly.
Yeah.
You know, a band like Dead Moon, who have, you know, Fred Cole's been around since the 60s, you know, and continued to make music up until recently, until he passed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like one of the things I loved about Dead Moon was just that love affair him and Tootie had, and the way that they were lifers, you know, and life could change all around them, but they were still just going to be in their own world, you know? So yeah, I hope to keep busy, you know. So,
well, here's the life and fucking Rick Froberg, man.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
Here's to Rick, and
I can't wait to hear whatever you guys do with that last stuff.
I can't wait to share it.
Yeah.
You know, I have to. I listened to some of it the other day, and I gotta say it was really difficult.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
because it was like, oh, dude.
It'll be the most celebrated thing, not because it's better or worse, but because it was his last thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward. We all are looking forward to sharing it with everybody. Rick would definitely want people to hear it for sure.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It just it's unfortunate we didn't get to finish it, but it is finished.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
that's one way to look at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. There you have it. Episode 28 of the Cult and Culture podcast. We really appreciate you all for listening. We appreciate John Reis for being part of this. Man, yeah, that was something else. Anyhow, we would like to thank our sponsors, Earthquaker Devices, Booyah, Fender, Hardwork Coffee. We'd like to say thanks to Andy Wallace and to Becky DiGilio for helping us out all the time with everything. And I don't know, check out our other podcast episodes. Some of them are only audio, which you can check out on 31G's SoundCloud or Apple Podcast or wherever you unethically stream your
Shitty podcast.
listening material. But yeah, we're psyched that we're venturing into the video realm now. So we hope you enjoy this, and we hope you check out our other podcasts. Do the subscribe, like, all that stuff if you want. Follow us on somewhere, and that'll be it. Peace.
Like.
Cult and Culture is proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Fender, and Heartwork Coffee.
Planet B.